in there. So yeah, and I encourage. I mean, a lot of people when they come to Britain or Europe, they just want to forget about their stories and experiences. They just want to live and want to focus on future and their aspiration, which is fair enough. A lot of people don't want to be known as refugees. They don't want people to know them as asylum seekers because there's so much negativity attached to it and there's so much stigma. So I understand that. They're very spokespeople for refugees in the UK. I mean, I get a lot of media requests because they're only who are speaking on refugees, as experience, as experts by experiences, because not many people are willing to share their stories, because then, I mean, I get a lot of abuse on social media and Twitter from people saying, oh, who do you think you are? We don't need you here. You come here illegally. You know, you're a criminal. And it's terrible. People are just so ignorant, like, you know, the small minority of people who sits behind their computers. So anyways, I was supposed to be giving you short answers, but I'm giving you long answers.
That's what we want. We want to hear your story. So thank you so much. So we're conscious that we only have you for another 15, 20 minutes. So we want to open the conversation to everyone who is here joining us. Priti also has a question. She'll leave it for the end. So if anyone has a question, if you can put your hands up with the icon that is at the bottom of the screen, and then we will ask you whether you want to switch your camera on and your audio on, and you can ask Gulwali your questions directly. So if anyone wants to put their hands up, we'll call you next. Okay, so we have the first person. So Andrew, if you want, you can either type your question or you can ask it yourself.
Hi, hi Gulwali. I read your book recently, and it was really a great read, as Sol said. And I was just thinking about your journey that you made from Afghanistan to the UK. It was incredibly tough, wasn't it? But do you think it was just as tough adjusting to life in the UK? And did you experience culture shock? Did the effects of the journey add to that, would you say?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for your question, Andrew, and thank you for reading the book. I switched off my camera because of the poor network for some reason. Yes, I think the journey was tough, but I had hope, and I was very determined to find my brother. I was not hoping not to let my mom down because she told me not to come back and to continue. But when I got to the UK, I was kind of at my kind of destination, hoping to be reunited with my brother, which actually happened eventually. But then going through the asylum process made my life really, really hard because there was this system of disbelief. I was guilty and I had to prove myself innocent. And to be honest, I don't know how you do that against the all-powerful Home Office. And so once the Home Office put your credibility under question, I mean, I don't like talking about it, but I attempted suicide twice because I was tired of life. I just didn't see the point, even though going through all this hellish journey, experiencing all the trauma and going through prisons and inhumanity as well as kindness and in cruelty, and then to be told by officials, I was just treated as a statistics and number. I wasn't.
And they questioned your age as well, didn't they? They questioned how old you were. Yeah.
They did not believe my age. They did not believe my nationality. Basically, again, it was systematically done. So they didn't have to. I mean, social services didn't have to worry about my schooling or my foster placement. It was about money. It was about my immigration status. I wouldn't be speaking to you if I hadn't been able to challenge it. I was very, very fortunate to get the right people on my side, you know, teachers, even social workers and friends and people who believed in me, people who befriended me, people who mentored me. So yeah, it was a struggle. And to be honest, it still is a struggle. No matter what I do, there will be people for them I would not be British enough. And even for my fellow Afghans, a lot of the time they would think I'm too westernized, I'm too non-Afghan, like I'm not like Afghan. So it's like I'm stuck in the middle. I have an identity crisis. But nonetheless, I mean, I've been very pleased to be able to to have opportunities that I had with schooling, with education, and with be able to make a difference and have my voice and to participate and to be involved. I've been part of like 27 different committees, commissions, and so I had to be honest, I had a very fulfilling life. And sorry, that was again a long answer. I'm going to give short answers. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gulwali. We have a question from Juliet as well.
just going to put my video on. Can you see me?
Yes.
Hi, great.
Hi, Juliet.
Thank you very much. Hi, nice to meet you. I was really touched by something you said about you wondered whether this global pandemic had the possibility of turning us all into kinder people. So I wondered if you could say a bit more about that. I mean, it sounds very optimistic and lovely. I mean, speaking as an English person living in the UK, I feel horrified by what's going on in the UK, both in terms of the pandemic, also in terms of the recent racist stuff, the Brexit. I mean, where shall I stop? So it was nice to hear that you thought maybe there was a chance that we would be able to offer some more kindness to each other.
Sure, thank you. I think the world needs kindness. I think one thing now we see, like, so I'm staying with my in-laws, and my father-in-law is quite old and he have grandchildren. They have not been coming close to each other for the last 2 months or so out of love. And it's difficult for them. They miss each other, and suddenly they meet from the window. And so with the pandemic, I feel like refugees and asylum seekers and migrants we've been living through a pandemic without you guys realizing it, So it's like the privileges that people have in the UK. It's not, with all due respect, it's not a personal thing. I think we have been experiencing, discriminations, racism, the hostile environment, and Brexit. The whole idea of Brexit was we don't like foreigners, we don't like whatever the Europeans, or that there was stories of people saying, oh, we don't want the Muslims. They were voting Brexit, and there were people like, oh, we don't want, people. There was a guy saying, oh, yeah, from Europe, fair enough, but we don't want people coming from Africa. We don't want people coming from Syria. So there was a lot of, misleading, and it was kind of personal as a Muslim and so on. But now I'm hopeful because we are kind of in a similar situation, all of us, and people are doing extraordinary things that they have not done before. I mean, everything is closed down. People are, the economy is going down. People are doing everything they can to stay safe, to not get the virus. And so in the same way, refugees have no choice. Nobody wants to leave home. But for safety, I mean, we are doing things that we have not done before. So I hope once this is over, people will be more considerate, people will be more compassionate and kind, because they have experienced what it means to be isolated, what it means to not see your parents, what it means to not be. I mean, now we see it practically. So like, I've not seen my mom, and there will be people who have not seen their parents or their children for months. So they will be, they will be missing them. Imagine, me not seeing for 13 years. I came as a child. Now I'm an adult. So
it may be the shared experience.
But definitely we need to push, for things. Yes. I hope so. I hope that will make a difference, and I hope it will have a positive impact.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much for your positivity, Gulwali. We all need a little bit of that right now. Thank you, Juliet, for your question. We've got a couple of questions on the chat, actually. We have a question from Emma, who says, hi, Gulwali, when you started on your journey, did you hope to return to life in Afghanistan one day?
Yes, I mean, to be honest, when I started the journey, I didn't really understand the implications and what would happen. I didn't know that it will take me a year and I had to experience hell. I always hope that I'll be home back and things will be normal. But sadly, Afghanistan there was a report out the other day, in Peace Index, Afghanistan is the most dangerous country in the world. And it has been for the last, I don't know, God knows how many years. And so I always been hopeful, and I still hope to go back and to see my family and to be able to play a constructive and positive role in the rebuilding of the country and using my experiences in education. But at the time when I was making the journey, I wasn't planning ahead. I was like, oh, things will be fine. I'll come back home. I didn't know how. And so now it's been over 13 years that I'm still not been yet.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have another question from, let's see, from Joanna. And it says, you faced a lot of animosity both during your journey and when you first arrived in the UK. In your book, you say that the worst thing is indifference. How would you like people to show that they care?
I think that's the main thing. If we stop caring, what kind of humans are we? I think the thing is, I want people to be concerned. I want people to see, like, sometimes I meet people when I go to schools and I do talk. Some people just feel like, oh, it's not happening to me. It happens far away. It's not my problem. But actually, when the whole virus thing happened, it happened in China. Look, it's affecting the whole world. In the same way, when conflicts and wars happen, it affects us in some ways. And as a human being, we should care about people who are suffering, who are going through pain. Otherwise, I mean, like right now, I deeply care about what's happening in Yemen. I care about what's happening in Palestine and what's happening to the Rohingya people in Burma, what happens to the Uyghur Muslims, what happens to people in Kashmir and elsewhere in the world, what happens to people in Venezuela and elsewhere in the world. Like, I'm not related to them, but I care as a human being, because if we lost that sense of caring and sense of fairness and sense of an idea of, like, we are in this together as human beings, then that there is something wrong with us. So I definitely hope that we will consider when people suffer, that will affect us, because otherwise, if it doesn't affect us, then something is wrong, and we have to look into ourselves and reevaluate our humanity. Because if somebody's suffering and we don't care, that is really an issue. I don't know how to explain that, but if, for example, right now the Black Lives Matter movement, I stand with them in solidarity. I'm not black. I don't know how they feel, but I face racism. I have seen what it means to be bullied at school and face discrimination and so on because of your skin color, which you can't really help. And so we got to care, and we had to come out of our comfort zone, and we had to, we all have privileges, and I think we all have the capacity and ability and capability to touch people's lives, and we had to do it. It depends on us how we want to touch it, positively or negatively. We have the means, and we have the capacity. So I would always hope that people, people will care, and people will be that now we all speaking together because we care, because we are concerned of what's happening. Even though a lot of you guys might not have personally been affected as refugees or migrants, but you are as a human being, and we all have it within our hearts to think like that, I hope.
Thank you. Yeah,
yes,
I agree.
we hope so too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have another question, yes, from Catherine. Catherine, would you like to ask the question yourself? Whoever has a question, you can, if you're happy to switch your mic and your camera on.
Hello, Gulwali. Yes, I can ask my question. I was thinking, I wondered how much English you spoke when you left Afghanistan. I haven't read your book, so you may explain it in your book. I was wondering how much English you spoke and how you managed to cross Europe with so many different languages and all the being in prison and dealing with officials, and how did that happen?
Sure, thank you. To be honest, no, I didn't speak any English. I learned just a few words along the way. How are you? I don't remember. Good morning. Can I ask for help? Just very basic things. But crossing Europe in the language, it was a huge barrier. One of the problems I had in Italy was the communication problem. They wanted to help me. They were very nice people, but we couldn't understand each other. And it's strange, they couldn't find me a translator. They found me a Farsi translator, which I couldn't really understood. He was speaking half French, half Italian and half Farsi. And it was very difficult. So language was always a barrier. Even in the UK, it took me a while. I'm still learning. It's my 5th language. And so English has not been easy. Doing my GCSEs was very, very tough and difficult, but I got a lot of amazing support and help from my teachers. I never imagined going to university. I graduated with a politics degree from Manchester Uni. I did my master's recently at Coventry. All these things I never imagined. But I think when you give refugees the right tools and help and guidance, they will succeed. They will achieve things that I say this with humbleness. I have done things in the last 10 years that people perhaps do in their entire lives, because I know what it means not to have opportunities. I know what it means to live in a war zone. And I know I value education. I value learning. I have become a little lazy. I complain about the weather and trains and traffic and planes and delays and so on.
You become English.
There you go. I kind of become part of the British culture in terms of my complaining habits. I've just been complaining about Denmark being boring. But so language is always the thing. And I think as people, as individuals, one thing that I would like those of you listening and being in the program with us is that I will, mentoring, befriending, and helping with helping asylum seekers and refugees to learn. Because once you're able to communicate, that's the starting point. Then you are able to go about getting educations, perhaps getting jobs and so on. Language is always a difficult one, and we always need volunteers and people who can teach English to asylum seekers in the afternoon or in the evening or whenever. So yeah.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have time for one more question from Peter? I know he's had his hand up for a while. Can we go to Peter?
Hi there, thanks. Yeah, I'll come in. Great. I would share my camera, but I think the signal's not great. So first of all, thank you, Gulwali. This is just amazing, really. I've seen you speak a couple of times now, and your eloquence and your generosity is just astounding. Really, really is. So my question really relates to what you were just saying, actually, and I wonder, given that this is an educational institution that you're talking to now, I wonder if you could say a bit, perhaps, what you think our responsibilities might be, or what we could do to help the situation that's resulted in your life being the way it is.
Thank you, Peter. You're very kind. To be honest, I think education institutions and universities have huge responsibility, a social responsibility to helping and supporting refugees and asylum seekers and migrants. Because, like, one of the things that I value in my life the most is my education. You know, having that certificate, having that degree, and not it's not about the learning and just the education, but also the people I met. And I mean, to be honest, the book came about because I met the right people at university. I did the kind of the right thing, and people have supported me. So I would encourage institutions and universities and education institutions to provide more support to asylum seekers. I would like more scholarship for refugees, more bursaries, and so on. And also we can help in terms of research, in terms of like, because there's sometimes there's not enough research around for politicians to make informed decisions, and politicians are quite arrogant and ignorant. But I think if you have the University of Cambridge coming up with research, they're more likely to listen than to listen to me. So so we have a huge moral and legal obligation as a country, as people, and universities play a huge role in kind of bridging the gap between educations and so on. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's a very helpful answer. Thanks a lot. Thank you, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Peter.
Perfect. I think Lauren had a question.
And maybe that's going to be our last question, because I know that you need to get to another talk, Gulwali.
Sure, I'm sure we could have 5 more minutes, because that starts at 6 o'clock your time.
Okay, fantastic. One more question from Lauren then.
Okay, thank you. I'll keep it brief. You mentioned that you've got a children's version of your book, and also that I know you do work with schools and with young people. And I just wondered if you could share a little bit about when you're talking to younger people and potentially to children who are a similar age to you when you made that journey. What's the key message that you want them to take away from the children's version of the book, or from the time that you spend with them?
Great. So I do a lot of school talks, and the children version is published in French. I mean, I'm really keen for the UK publisher to do it as well, because I think it's important. So when I do school talks, the main message is about, I want them to be appreciative of their education. I want children and young people to understand that there are millions. There are millions who doesn't have access to education. There are millions of children around the world. I mean, half of the 25 million, 12 million refugees are children. And so I want them to not take for granted their opportunities in their education. I talk to them about my experience of school in Afghanistan, which was very, very basic, but we still wanted to learn and wanted to gain an education, and how education can change people's attitudes and people's behavior. And so the message is usually about being grateful, being working hard, and also about understanding and caring for other people, and how we are kind of all interconnected. The world belongs to all of us. And we as human beings have a responsibility towards one another, and we have, as I was saying, we have the ability to hurt, to make life better for people. So, and also in some schools, when they have a refugee population, I talk to them about how they could befriend and buddy people, and support them, not to pick on them because of their accent, and treat them in understanding that they have a story, they have an experiences that we can't even imagine. So there's a kind of a mixed messages. Some schools where they have issues around bullying or issues around racism, the message is directly to that. But usually my message is about understanding what it means to be a refugee, because a lot of schools and children don't know what it means to be a refugee. What is an asylum seeker? Why do people come here? I do a quiz about how many refugees we have, and people are, they said to me, 23%, 33% people we have in the UK, when in fact less than 1% of our population are refugees. So a lot of schools that I go to, they lack the knowledge and necessary kind of information on refugees and migration. They know very little. Even like I've been to some geography classes, they have very little understanding of the experiences of refugees. So I have been quite lucky to be into about 56 schools in the last few years across the UK, to spoken to them, not only to inspire them, to empower them, to work hard and to be determined, to stay focused and to be dedicated, but also wants them to have an understanding of the refugee experience in refugee struggles, and to be more kind and to be compassionate. And so yeah, I receive amazing letters from teachers in schools. I mean, like some schools I go and they write me, the whole class writes me a letter, which is really lovely. So yeah, it changes people's, I think changing people's attitudes is really important. And just a final point, I was once doing a talk somewhere near, I don't know, Devon in Somerset, at a school, and this year 9 boy came up to me saying, I hated you without meeting you. I used to have very, very negative view of people like you, but please don't judge me. It's because of my parents and because of what I see on the news. And I actually hugged the boy, and I was like, this is very brave of you. He said he had never met a Muslim before. He never met a refugee, but he always heard about how we were, criminals, we were up to no good, and how we were, troublemakers. So whenever I travel and do talks, it's very rewarding to see the reaction and the responses and the learning that comes out of it. And I always encourage school to do charity events and to do to be active, to be involved, and to do fundraising for charities and to welcome newcomers. So that's a long answer, but ultimately I just want children to be aware of what's happening and to be, I speak to sometime age 12 children. As I looked at like I was your age and I made this journey, imagine. And some of them like, oh, I struggle to come to school from home, and I live like 10 minutes away, and my mom has to drop me. And so it's really lovely that they can relate and try to think and reflect.
That's great. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Gulwali. And I wanted to say also to you that is very timely, because actually on Friday we had a little children's book club with some of the kids from our staff, and they read The Boy at the Back of the Class from Anjali. I don't know if you've heard of it. And so we are going to have a Q&A with her and with the children who read it, and we're going to discuss topics to do with displacement and refugees on Friday. So
that's
very
amazing.
much looking forward to that.
She's great, and her book is very good. Yes.
Yeah. And so I know that you have to go, but on that note, I want to read one sentence from your book, and it's right at the end, and it's not a spoiler for anyone, but I think that it really encompasses what you're saying. And what you say is, if I have one single dream is this, that a child in the future will read this book and ask, what was a refugee? And we can all change that together. So hopefully one day we will be able to change that together. This is a very small start. At Cambridge Assessment, we hold these events because of what you were saying. We want to change preconceptions. We want people to be able to engage in the conversation, to meet refugees, to find out about the amazing things that they've done. And I think that is our little way to, help the situation. So thank you so much for being here today with us, Gulwali.
Thanks. It
was lovely to see you again.
A wonderful evening, and indeed, and a great week. And please keep up your good work, and thank you everyone for attending and participating and asking your question. And I hope to meet you guys in person at some point once this pandemic is over. And wishing you guys well. Let's stay connected on social media, whatever. And yeah, please, drop me a message.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to send an email to everyone who attended to share your social media.
Okay.